Yeah, no, I don't know.
Everybody misses it. I missed that one. Yeah. No, it wasn't okay. Who wants to go stand up on the steps and up along the railing? If everyone wants to just go stand up. Okay. Let's take a photo here. Photos. Okay.
All right, boys. They're just protective of. They probably got.
I take your photo with it.
Let's do before and after. You know, that one and then right. We have to match in and take shots. Before and after. Oh, we see the beginning of the year with
No worries. Sure, good. So, this is all enjoy.
Has anyone been before that's already done a tour?
Yes.
A few times. So if you've done a tour, and you've definitely done it a few times, if you'd be willing to, and that was the letter that she wrote to the wife after the lady's husband had passed away, who was also Ellen White's friend. So that's a really special letter. So you can come back and read that. There's some of the things that are good to do when you're not on a tour. Yes. Communities once we're off the tour. Make it through so I can take everybody through. We'll come through to the next
Oh,
room.
wow. Oh my gosh. Thank you.
So come on through if you like.
Thank you.
Make your way through so we can fit everybody in. Okay, so they have this room set up as her bedroom. It would have been her bedroom. They believe it would have been her bedroom for the longest part because of in her writings, they talk about, she says how she would ride up in the buggy and hop off on the deck and walk in. So they believe this room probably for the longest in. But she also talks in her writings about, like any of us, having shifted rooms in her home. Like we all sometimes decide, I did when I was younger, change rooms. So she actually would have used different rooms at different times. But they think that this was probably her room for the longest. When you think about the fact, it always like wows me to think that, you know, the angels would have visited her here. She would be up to, I think there would have been a door over there. Her grandchildren, some under the door on in those wee hours. And it is said that I think one of the grandchildren even heard her talking to the angel. So it's pretty amazing when you think about that. She just, this is where she would often pray and really write. She really had a burden to write on her heart. It was what she could only do it in those wee hours because there was so much else they would often do during the day. It's a look, yeah, pull it out. It used to be a bit neater. People have messed it up, but that is actually her dressing gown. You can keep going.
Oh, wow.
So that was, it used to sit nicely. That is her actual dressing gown.
Oh my gosh.
Take a photo, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just so you know as well, this actual dresser is hers. And it surprised me, her style. So she very much, you'll see from her furniture that we have, her style was the wood with the stone bench top, very much so.
Yeah, stone bench top.
And the chair behind you was hers.
Oh, wow. It's original.
So this desk was one of the many desks that were in the house.
Oh my
Can you
gosh.
get it in? I know it's a bit stiff.
That's all right.
Oh my gosh.
So you're going to feel, I was surprised at the colour for her furniture. I didn't expect her to be a dark colour.
Yeah.
But she's a dark colour, so I was surprised with that.
Yeah.
Wow, maybe in those days.
Wow.
Yeah. You want to know how to play?
Oh no.
Anyone?
I cannot.
Play? You want to have a turn?
Come on, darling.
So it's not like a normal one. You've got to start pumping your feet first, okay? Does anyone want a video of it?
Yeah.
So you sit down. You can pull the chair in if you need to come a bit closer. So you got to start pumping. You got to be pretty, like you got to get to it with both feet, one foot on each pedal.
This one.
Yep, and you got to get pumping. You got to pump your feet. You got to
Like
keep
this.
going. Yep, you got to pump. Good. And then you can start playing, but you're gonna have to pump harder. You got to pump harder, okay? And you can't stop. You've got to keep going with your feet. You got to pump harder. You got to pump. You got to pump. You got to pump first. You can't stop. You got to keep going hard. Yeah, I know.
Wow.
You have to be fit back in the day. You got to be able to do it.
Kind of hard for this shoe, but like moving this thing. Good job.
You can't stop. You got to keep pumping.
Keep pumping. Nice exercise.
And these ones?
They just do different sounds, but it's okay.
But just, you know, just anything.
Oh my gosh, I can't.
It's hard. Isn't it? That's what I'm really coordinated.
Oh yeah, this is.
You play without the pedals on. This is a different one.
There you go. It takes a bit of work to do.
Yeah.
Up to the Lord, and they were good friends with Alan. Anytime she stayed in Sydney, she would stay with them, and anytime they came up here, they would stay with her. So they were really good friends. This organ was actually donated, I think it's in a logging accident, and was killed. And that's why it's nice to read that letter, because you kind of get the feel that that was a family she loved and cared for. But it's also interesting because even back in those days, they wrote so formally, like it wasn't like how I would write now. Yeah, no, it's always formal. So the other thing's interesting to look at in this room later on after the tour. This is separate to Sunnyside and Alan White, but this picture and the story under it is a really amazing story. If you read that and have a look, that's really interesting. But do that after the tour because it'll take a little bit of time. We'll go through to the next room. Come on through, guys. You can take pictures and read afterwards.
Yeah, come. But she's going to do another.
Yeah, I've got to go through quickly afterwards. You can look at everything. Alright. Okay, so this is set up as the nurse's room. One of the main things that Alan did while she lived here was actually, with her nurse, Sarah, they would look and help and try to do everything they could to support the community for people who needed physical, mental, or spiritual help. What they often did was go for a buggy ride and actually look for people in need. When they first came to Currumbin was it was a very small town. There was only a couple of little types of buildings, and it was known for some petty thievery, and it had like small gangs, and they actually have a picture on the wall in the hallway of Alan and Sarah and her team, but specifically really Alan and Sarah. For the years that they lived here, they tirelessly helped the community and supported it. Part of that time they were here, there was a Great Depression, and they supported people with jobs so they could earn food and money for their family. If people were too sick to support in their homes, they would actually bring them back to this house, and they would actually, Sarah would nurse them around the clock. There's a story of a family, specifically a boy and his auntie, who when they found him, he was in a really bad way. His leg had gotten infected to the point where it was going to have to be amputated. They had been to a physician in Newcastle, horse and cart back then. They had gone to this physician. He had really only advised, it was like milk and bread, poultice, and some wrappings. They hadn't really understood exactly what to do, and there wasn't a lot that he offered to do. So when they found him, it was pretty bad. When they brought him back here to nurse, Sarah did charcoal. I'll just make sure I get exactly what she did. I know she did the charcoal compresses. Here we go. So she did the hot and cold fomentations, and they dressed the leg every couple of hours, and then she would repeat that process, and she would also do charcoal poultices on the wound. And at the same time, they also discovered their aunt needed help, and she came back. And 10 days later, they were both well and returned home, and that boy's leg was saved. So they helped people like that time and time again in the community. By the time they left, all of that thievery, all of the gangs, all of that crime had gone because they had impacted the community so much. And I think that's a pretty big testament to God working through them. In this room, you can see again, this washstand was hers. It's the same type of... I'm terrible at
No,
No?
you just post the
All right, do you want to take a seat at the table?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
You're welcome to have a seat. This was her actual table. tables and chairs. The stuff on, just be careful not to break anything.
Not
The
to
stuff
touch
on top
anything,
wasn't hers, but it's just set up for the actual table. Again, she had that really dark style with the wood. That was what she liked. Do you know, all of her furniture had to be stroked on the Dora Creek. That was how they got stuff here back then. So it actually came up a lot. Yeah, so it was a lot bigger and better. Like, it had a lot of... Probably what you could see, if you look at the floorboards, our floorboards in this room go this way, right?
Yeah.
But the floorboards in the hall go that way. So from that door forward is the original house. That's what they built first. She actually then built this room to be like a dry storage good. But what happened was, Willie and his wife were still living in the tents. They were just waiting for their house to be finished across the road. But she had twin boys. And so because it was cold and that, he actually asked his mum, look, can we live in this room so that, you know, the babies are warm and that? She said, yes, of course. So Willie and his new wife and the twins actually lived in this room just until they got the house finished across the road. And then you'll actually see the floorboards there are different again. So that was an add-on as well after. So they did slowly add on these extra rooms. So something else just to do with the dinner table. So Alan was the type of person that always had people coming and just apart that people were just in and out all the time, especially in the Great Depression time. They would have men and people walking down the road. They would be looking for work, people who could, you know, give them a job. So she would support whoever she could with work for food and board and to support their family. At one point, which I find this really interesting, and I think it goes to show that, you know, there are times where dire things happen, and she actually got into debt with the local grocer. It's something like $600 and something. Now, that's how bad the Depression was. Now, that money was purely to support the people that she had in her home for food so that everyone could live. But God was so faithful and so amazing that literally not long after, she received a check in the mail for royalties for her books. And it was enough to pay off that debt. So God was really faithful to her all the time. So yeah, I love this. Just think, she always had 8, 9, 10 people at her dinner table. Like they would have to have extra chairs, I guess. She always had a lot of people at her table. And so all these tables and chairs were hers. I thought there was a note that used to say that was hers, although I don't see it lately anymore, so I'm not 100% sure. That's a fainting couch, and that was hers, and that chair there was hers. There's not a lot to say in this room. It's got more just, it's just got things that you can come through now if you want to. It's just got things that are representative from that time. Back when she was here, there's actually a hole in the floor over there. So because the cooking part of the kitchen would have still been outside because of fire, but they feel that maybe it was also used for a bit of a washroom because of the hole in the floor, but they're not totally sure. So it could have been a mix of a room, this one, but a lot of the stuff in here.
Looking for someone to take a picture.
How? Oh my gosh!
Come on in.
Look!
Okay, so upstairs was actually for the secretaries. So this room, I need to double check whether that was a room or that was always, I don't know if that was a room or always a bathroom over there. I need to double check with Sally Ann. And then you'll see in the long room it was actually 2 rooms.
Okay.
So the secretaries lived upstairs. Ellen White rarely came up. It was too hard on her legs to do the stairs. She did sometimes, but not very often. So in this room, though, just a couple of points. They have a cot that could have resembled similar to what May might have had back then for the twins. They also, one of the big things about Ellen was she loved to sew, and the women always sewed and made their clothes. So they've got a similar sewing machine from back then. Ellen was very frugal. They were frugal. Frugal, is that the right word? The opposite. Is frugal tight? Yeah. She was frugal with her money because she liked to, she gave anything new she had, anything good, she always gave to somebody else. She would fix her own clothes, undies, her own stockings. She would darn them till you could darn them no more. Like, that's the type of person she was. Everybody else got the good stuff. She just tried to save money.
Yeah.
But she wasn't, I wouldn't say she lived poorly. She made sure she presented well, but she just was someone who gave other people. She didn't really like to buy new very much. But she was also particular. Like, when the house was built, she was really particular with where the windows were and had to be top quality for weather and temperature and definitely where the sun would come in. So she knew where she needed to make things good and have it right. So we'll go into the big room as well. Hi everybody, feel free to show yourself around. I'm trying to get through and take groups. We're very big today. Yeah. We're about to finish and I'll go start.
Let's go.
2 rooms and they had their own little kitchen to the edge of the window where they could cook. Isn't it an amazing view? Like, it's so beautiful. There's just lots of examples of how historic literature for the signs Like this one. So feel free to have a look. I'm going to leave you at this point, and I'm going to go get the next group.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
guys.
you so much. Thank
No
you.
worries.